Good morning, Christ Church International. This is your pastor, Pastor Darrell John Geddes, and these are your CCI announcements for August 23rd, 2020. As always, Proverbs 17:22 says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine." There was a preacher who fell in the ocean and he couldn't swim. When a boat came by, the captain yelled, "Do you need help, sir?" The preacher calmly said, "No, God will save me." A little later, another boat came by and the fisherman asked, "Hey, do you need help?" The preacher replied again, "No, God will save me." Eventually, the preacher drowned and went to heaven. The preacher asked God, "Why didn't you save me?" God replied, "Fool, I sent you 2 boats." That's a good one. An elderly lady was well known for her faith and for her boldness in talking about it. She would stand on her front porch and shout, "Praise the Lord." Next door to her lived an atheist who gets so angry at her proclamation that he would stand on his front porch and say, "There ain't no Lord." Hard times set in on the elderly lady, and she prayed for God to send her some assistance. She stood on her porch and shouted, "Praise the Lord. God, I need food. I am having a hard time. Please, Lord, send me some groceries." The next morning, the lady went out on her porch and noted a large bag of groceries and shouted, "Praise the Lord." The neighbor jumped out from behind a bush and said, "Aha! I told you there was no Lord. I bought those groceries. God didn't." The lady started jumping up and down, clapping her hands and said, "Praise the Lord. He not only sent me groceries, but he made the devil pay for them. Praise the Lord." That was a good one. And now, sit back and enjoy our next Coping with COVID moment. Hi, this is your pastor, Pastor Darrell Geddes, and we are here today with Dr. Stephen Crawford, who is the Executive Director for Experience Leadership. And also we have with us Caleb Josiah Crawford, who is the Executive Director of Caleb's Life. And we're here today going over with them, talking with them about how they have been coping with COVID-19. Dr. Crawford, Stephen, tell us, you're a small business, and from what I understand, your clientele is made up of small businesses. How has COVID-19 and the shutting down and sheltering in place, how has that affected what you do as a business person?
Yeah. Well, I think for what we do, it's changed everything. Most of our workshops and everything that we do is often in person. We get invited places to speak. All over the place to do training in leadership and leadership development. Okay. A lot of the clients that we meet with are in-person clients, and so everything has changed about the way we do things, but probably most heart-wrenching is just to watch many of the small businesses that were forced to close their doors because they could not have tracking and tracing taking place within their institution without becoming professionally liable. And so a lot of small businesses, whether it be medical clinics and small dentist offices and chiropractors, retail locations, from about early March to about late May, we're almost 100% out of business, and business still isn't back for many of them because of the challenges with many people are afraid to go visit those places and to get care in many of those locations.
Wow. So what do you think? What has been your greatest challenge as a coach for small businesses? What's been your greatest challenge as you face the pandemic personally?
Well, I think our greatest challenge is one, you can't help people that don't have a business any longer. It's just once they're forced to shut their doors, and many of them had to make the hard decision of not coming back, not reopening, because the pace and speed in which they could reopen and get their clientele back would just have been an impossibility. And so when you're dealing with people's paychecks and different things like that, and you have to let people go. I'm thankful we haven't, to this point, had to let anyone go.
Okay.
We did lose a significant amount of clientele. We do see kind of a bouncing back, but the challenges, I think, with many of the small businesses that had to close their doors was very emotional, and because this isn't just someone's business, this is their dream.
Yes.
This is what they pursued. This is, in many cases, they've gotten educated, they've gotten a license within their business, and then to watch them have to shut their doors potentially for the last time is very heartbreaking. And I think for many of the people who needed to rehire,
Sure.
I know that for many entry-level employees, they were very satisfied with the $600 of government assistance per week to add to the unemployment benefits of the state. And so many people could not get their former employees to answer the phone to come back to work.
Wow.
Because they were making more on unemployment than they were in a job. So the hiring, there's been almost a hiring freeze, especially on entry-level jobs. So many of the companies that we deal with are struggling with that as well.
Wow. So now personally, what has been the greatest challenge for experienced leadership going through this process? You laughed.
Yeah, well, managing the emotions of all the leaders involved.
Okay.
Because people see leaders as those who need to keep their heads together, they need to keep everything cool, and they need to be calm and collected. And for many leaders, that's the case when they're facing their employees or their customers. But in our private conversations, we get to see almost people ready to break down, cry, and fall apart because of the significant loss that they've experienced.
Yeah.
So I think that's wrestling and navigating and helping people pivot, re-strategize, and really look at what needs to be done.
So you've helped to walk them through the process then.
Right. For many of our clients that have stayed in business, we've walked them through the process.
Wow.
And many of them have been coming up on the other side. For some of our businesses, they're having the best economic time they've ever had because they figured out how to pivot in the right way to make that happen.
It sounds like you have a wealth of invaluable information that you could share with other people that would help them to know how to pivot when they're facing difficult times like this. What would you share with the everyday person who's facing COVID-19? Well, what would you share with them as the proper way to approach and to pivot as they're facing these new challenges?
Well, I know that from in the world of entrepreneurship, one of the things that I've been trying to do, and we've just almost drawn a hard line. America's built on people having dreams and being able to build a business and follow what they refer to as their American dream.
Okay.
For many people, that's a job. But in the life of the entrepreneur, for many of them, it's wanting to get out there and to bet on themselves. And to take a risk. We have Chef Jeff and many other entrepreneurs that are part of this congregation, and so they bet on themselves. They put their money where their dream is, and they really go out there and do it. One of the things that I've been trying to do, especially over the last couple of months, is trying to redirect people. So we've actually started a process to help people figure out how to separate their personal credit and their business credit, because we want people to be able to survive personally and be in a good place, even if the business suffers loss. So we've been working with people on understanding how credit works and how to build their credit around their EIN so that their social can be separate at some point, because for many business owners during this crisis, when they couldn't afford to pay their rent or they couldn't afford to pay their bills, what ended up happening was their personal credit went down, and so we're fast tracking many people to figure out how to build a credit around their EIN or their employment identification number for those who aren't in business, and how to build their business credit so that if their business goes down, they can get back up to fight another day.
That's excellent. It just sounds like, just in this brief time that we've been talking, that you've got a wealth of information that you could share with people who are in small businesses. How could someone get in contact with you if they wanted to further this conversation and find out how to cope during COVID-19?
Well, what we encourage them to do is just, we encourage everybody to go to experienceleadership.com and book a call. Right on our website, we have some opportunity. But if they're not ready to talk yet, I mean, we do have an assessment that they can download to evaluate their business, to see where they're weak and where they're strong, where some of the vulnerability areas might be. So they can do that self-assessment, and if they want to reach out, we'll be happy to talk with them.
Well, thank you, Dr. Crawford, for sharing with us how you have been coping with COVID-19. Again, if you need to get in touch with Dr. Crawford, please go online and look up Experience Leadership, and you'll find him there. This has been your pastor, Pastor Daryl Geddes, and this has been Coping with COVID. For more information, as always, log on to ccilife.org, where you will find links to our online sermons, our online giving, and to all of our social media networks. This has been your pastor, and these have been your Christ Church International announcements. I sincerely hope that you enjoy the rest of our service.
I love you because you